Hello, podcast fans. I'm Amy Donaldson. You know me as the host of The Letter for 2 seasons, but I have a special treat for you. I'm going back to my sports roots. I'm excited to announce the launch of the first ever narrative sports podcast by KSL Podcast Group. And you're going to get a little behind the scenes. I'm going to tell you sort of how we got the idea, why. Those of you who followed my sports writing at the Deseret News will recognize some of my interests in the behind the scenes or the emotional aspects of the story. But joining me today is my frenemy, Trey Fitz-Gerald. Trey, you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, yes, I'm honored to be here. My name is Trey Fitz-Gerald with Real Salt Lake. I'm the Vice President of Communications. I have been with the club for 20 years. I had never been to Utah before I got here to help start this club. I think I was the 3rd employee. I did end up leaving for a couple seasons and then coming back. We'll get into that.
It's all in the podcast.
Throughout the, 10, 12 episode series of Making of a Moment?
It's actually 6 main run.
Okay.
But we're launching right before the season, right as a regular season ends, playoff begins, because I think what's happening with the team now is going to lead to a couple of extra
So a few
episodes.
bonus episodes.
There's actually 6. There will be 12 episodes total right now.
Amazing.
But there will be more. So, I mean, and honestly, we had to leave a lot out.
Yeah, a lot on the cutting room floor.
So let's talk about first why. So I was 20 years a print journalist. That's how we met each other. Mm-hmm. And I'm leaving the building one day, and Trey is coming in, or vice versa. And he says, you should write a story about our playoff run. This is 2021. I was working on The Letter. I'd been in podcasts maybe 9 months. And I said, oh, maybe I should do a podcast, because I had no idea what I was getting into. And I knew when I came to podcasting, I had done interview style. I had done talk radio. I knew I wanted to tell stories, like audio stories, one story over multiple episodes, which is what I was doing with The Letter. And I didn't think it would be that big a deal to put 2 things on my plate. I was wrong. But once I went to Seattle with the team for that first playoff game, I interviewed Trey, John Jenna, John Kimball, Meg. I think maybe there were some other people there.
Pablo Mastroeni.
Pablo, yeah. Well, I didn't interview Pablo that time. I saw him down in the locker room. I met him.
Pablo is the reason that I told you needed to do something. We were 2 months into his interim coaching tenure. Mm-hmm. He had just taken over, and Pablo has built an amazing culture, but much of what he has built, I guess, exemplifies the vision that our founder, Dave Checketts, had 20 years ago, or I guess at that time, 17, 18 years prior to that team. So it was just a really special time, very serendipitous that you were able to come to Seattle. And obviously we went on a very deep playoff run that season. Yeah.
And so as I'm interviewing you all in the lobby of the hotel before the first game, I realized probably within that first 20 minutes, and I was just getting backstory so I would know who the front office people were. I realized pretty quickly this is not just a sports story. Mm-hmm. Right? It's more. And then I watched the game, and I was in the luxury box with a bunch of the executives, and came down to the locker room afterwards. That's where I met Pablo for the first time, and realized, I don't know what's going to happen. I mean, that's the thing about being a sports writer is you're not supposed to care about the outcome. And so what I care about always is where's the story and how long does that last, right? So we were like, well, what if you go to Seattle and lose? And you told me it's worth it anyway. Yeah. It's worth it. We could still do a podcast.
I mean, we were expected to lose. And that's
it was
honestly,
the only
that's
upset.
That's a big part of the RSL story is we have, as Utahns have also been underdogs in a lot of scenarios and situations, and we've overcome. We've been a phoenix rising from the ashes at various times in our generation, our 2 decades of history, and I'm just so excited for not just our fans, but for the general market audience, non-sports fans, non-soccer fans, to hear about us and about what we've been through and what's driven us to continue forward and to overcome incredible obstacles. And this is why I love sports, is you just never know what stories are going to emerge. Like you said, you never know what threads you might need to pull on. And It's the ultimate reality TV is something I've always said. And I think what passes for reality TV now is very contrived and produced and overwrought and overthought. But sports, it is about the human condition and every facet, every aspect, good and bad. And
I think that's one of the things that hooked me pretty early on. I did not actually interview Pablo until after Kansas City game. And once I interviewed him, you were there for that. So it's the longest file I uploaded, and there were some long files. You've been interviewed by me many times. Trey's like, oh my God, another interview. But I interviewed John Jenna, and then I interviewed Pablo, and they had an exchange that we were rolling on. So that's going to be in the podcast.
Cool.
But I think that was the moment I was like, this is really about one of my favorite sports themes and favorite life themes. What makes some people believe in themselves or rise from the ashes or pick themselves up off the ground for that 1,000th time when a lot of other people would just say, clearly this is not meant for me. I mean, you were in those interviews.
That irrational belief, that hope, and again, I think what's been fascinating too is just seeing how driven different people are with different motivations to carry forward, to overcome, to fight for the person next to them, to do the right thing on and off the field. And that really is a big part of this story. Yeah. I mean, that's what everyone said. So did you have to learn so much about soccer? Because I never daily covered soccer in my job. And I mostly covered women's sports, mostly high school and little college football and then Olympic sports. So for me, it was a chance to get to know the story of American soccer. As you know, my husband is a huge Premier League fan. Yeah.
But, not so much. We haven't been MLS fans, right? No. And seeing sort of the birth of that, the rise of this, where soccer fits in the sports landscape, how it mirrors what I see in Utah sports culture. We both came from somewhere else and noticed that, but I had a nice conversation with Dave Checketts and Dunny and Jason Kreis about this idea that there already was a culture here that really fit what RSL fit into the culture in a way that some sports teams don't. Well, and when we started, it was 20 years ago when we started in 2005, and it was Dave Checketts' vision, former Jazz president, Bountiful High School, BYU basketball player, Dave Checketts, Utah Jazz president when he was 27 years old, if you can believe that. Youngest NBA executive in league history, ran Madison Square Garden, the Knicks, the Rangers, one of the greatest sports entrepreneurs of my generation. But when we started this club, his vision was very much, this is what another professional sports team can do for Utah and the Jazz and the city and the community, the state. But very quickly in those first 5 years, when we won a title, when we went and represented this league, which was growing, the sport was growing in continental competition against teams from Mexico and Costa Rica and Panama and really carried that American flag internationally, that is when the idea of what Utah could mean to the fabric of Major League Soccer and professional sports in this country started to emerge. And obviously now in 20 years, we've seen incredible growth in college football and now having hockey here. And these are exciting times for sports fans, but the road from the things that Dave Checketts did envision that came true, the things that he never expected this club, this team, this fan base to have to endure, having the leadership of people like Jason Kreis, Kyle Beckerman, Brian Dunseth, now Pablo Mastroeni, Damir Krylock, many, many others, John Kimball. I could go on for hours with the names that you've talked to as part of this series to kind of explain where we were in our darkest moments and where we've been in our highest highs and how we're trying to recreate the pathway to win more trophies. Why do you think it's important for us to tell these stories? Like why, everybody has this moment, the thing happens in the time that it lives, right? But why go back? Why delve into the history? Why pull the curtain back?
I love history, and it's not just sports history, but I do think when you hear the struggles, the challenges, the opportunities, and the achievements of these people in these different situations, and maybe it's through a sports context, maybe it's through a business context. We hear from our fans and how they, the lens through which they were viewing what was happening on and off the field. For me, it can be inspirational. It can be affirmative. It can just give you hope.
Have you learned anything? You sat through a lot of my interviews.
I did sit through a lot of interviews. Honestly, that's a great question, and I probably need to listen to some of these episodes, both standard and bonus, and bug you for what ended up on the cutting room floor. Because, look, I love this club. It's been a labor of love. It has been disappointing at times. And again, that's what I mean by the human condition. But there are things when I hear Jason Kreis or Pablo Mastroeni talk about what they took home after a difficult loss or a difficult period, or when they were really kind of at a fork in the road about, do I continue on here? Do I go somewhere else? Do I change how I interact with this league, club, industry, whatever? It helps me be introspective about what I'm dealing with in my life or what I may have dealt with. Maybe it's things that I beat myself up over, and then hearing that other people are going through similar situations, maybe in a slightly different context, it can give you strength. It can give you hope, inspiration, or at the very least, it gives you appreciation for what we're all dealing with every day, kind of behind the scenes. So.
Outside of golf, you're not a professional sports guy,
I am
right?
not an athlete.
But what has it meant to you that professional sports exists the way it does in this country?
I guess I've always thought of what we were trying to build here with Real Salt Lake as a great unifier. And we've talked about that a lot in the 3 decades of Major League Soccer, that, if you go to an MLS stadium, and specifically if you go to our stadium, first at Rice Eccles or later and currently in Sandy, you see the best Utah has to offer from all backgrounds, all walks of life, race, religion, skin color, creed, whatever you want to call it. These are people that all gather together and then become unified behind this badge and the claret and the cobalt, and it's just exciting, and it's different yet similar to maybe what you get at a Jazz game or at a college football game, or whatever the other sports are. Now we have women's soccer here, so Utah Royals. It's similar but different, and it's just it really gives you a sense of community, and I think that's I compared it to reality TV earlier, but there is drama, there's emotion, there's certainly passion, but then you find your community, and it's exciting, and I've just grown up a big sports fan. I wasn't raised by sports fans, so I guess this is where I found community and a gathering place and people to share the roller coaster of life with.
One of the things I loved about talking to fans was it was about 50-50 on people who even really were soccer fans. Mm-hmm. They wanted to belong to something. And I do think COVID separated us in a way that, and that's part of the RSL story, is what happened during and after COVID, right? And to all sports. And I think that one of the things I found really interesting was the way sports can give people connection, because they have to go to an arena or go to a game or talk to people in line.
Or you go to a restaurant or a bar to watch a road game. That's a big deal for soccer fans. Yeah,
and you have an experience that if you were just watching it at home on TV or whatever,
it's different.
You don't have. Do you have a favorite for you? And it doesn't have to be RSL, can be, or soccer. But do you have like a favorite? Like this is my favorite sports moment of my life.
For me, it would be winning MLS Cup in 2009. Mm-hmm. I was raised a Broncos and Nuggets fan, and the Denver Nuggets were my first job in sports. Mm-hmm. So seeing them win a championship a couple years ago meant a lot to me, because I didn't think they would ever be good again. Mm-hmm. I've been a lifelong Broncos fan. They've They've won Super Bowls. They've been to others. They've been a very well-run organization up until most of the last decade. But,
I feel your pain.
But I'm going to be biased here and say, yeah, Real Salt Lake, again, just because of being part of the process and not just being a fan, but also being, I guess in a small way, an architect of what we've built over 20 years, and knowing that we're still just scratching the surface. We have so much growth and opportunity still to happen, as does our city, our state, our community. RSL is part of the fabric of this community now after 20 years. That's something that we should all be very, very proud of. But we want to deepen those roots, and we want to continue to serve as an inspiration or a gathering place. And I think it's always about people. And if you like the people that you work with every day, or you like the people on your team that you follow, you're going to have a deeper emotional connection if those people are good people and they want to do right by the employees or the fans or whatever. And, our latest ownership group has talked about, we are stewards of a community asset, and that's truly how we look at our club. And then when you have people like Pablo Mastroeni or Jason Kreis or Kurt Schmid or Kyle Beckerman or Damir Krylak or whoever, and then a million others behind the scenes that are really about that community aspect, I think what we're all trying to do is figure out a way to make 1 + 1 = 3 and reward fans and reward Utah.
And I think, I know you told me to shut up, but I'm not going to shut up yet. I just want to say one thing. One of my favorite scenes in Ted Lasso, season 3, is when the owners are talking about a super league, similar to what happened in golf, right? It's about money. And everybody thinks that millionaire, billionaire owners or owners groups, right? They are in a community, they own sports teams to make money. And it is a business. But there's this aspect of sports business that good owners also embody, and that is that you own something, but does it really belong to you? Does it belong really to the people, to the players who are training and sweating and risking everything there, and also the community that supports you, And so it's not just about extracting money from a thing. It's really about building this thing that it has a symbiotic relationship with the community where you live.
Absolutely.
And have you seen that change?
Yes, because good owners take whatever money they're making and they put it back in. And that can be in a lot of different forms. It can be buying players for the roster or investing in players. It can be adding staff. It can be enhancing stadium or training facilities or whatever the venues that are associated with the teams. Our club is still very much in growth mode. We brought the NWSL back to Utah just in the last year and a half, and that was the first question that David Blitzer and Ryan Smith received 2.5 years ago when they took over Real Salt Lake was, hey, when are the Royals coming back? And
it
was always a matter of not if, but when. And so, we're still, like I said, we're scratching the surface. We're still at a very nascent kind of point in our existence, and it's about growth. And this ownership group, this leadership group, this management group is always looking for ways to, again, deepen the roots in the community, grow the product, and become more powerful nationally, internationally, not just domestically. So, and that's the great thing about soccer. It's the world's game. It's the beautiful game. And it gives us opportunities that, simply put, NCAA teams, NBA teams, NHL teams don't have.
Thank you so much for doing this. Thank you for asking me to cover the team, because it led to this.
Can't wait. Well, hopefully we're going to have another magical playoff run here in 2024, just like the one we had in 21 that inspired you to take on this arduous yet lovable project.
We're looking for another moment, right? We want lots of moments.
If we have the right kind of playoff run, then we'll have Making of a Moment season 2.
If you're interested, and I hope you are, in listening to Making of a Moment, the RSL Story, it drops October 23rd. Go to makingofamomentpod.com and you can check out a lot of pictures and stories, and you can go to any podcast app that you love where you find all your favorite podcasts and follow us now so you don't miss a single episode. As I said, it's right now 6 episodes with 6 bonus episodes. They drop Wednesdays and Fridays. On Wednesday the 23rd, we're going to launch with the first 2 episodes, and Friday it will be the first bonus episode. And I'm predicting there will be more to write about, more to cover, so there might be extra. So make sure you follow us and rate us and review us and all that good stuff, and yeah, have some fun.